NetSparker, the developers of desktop and cloud-based web application security scanners that enable you to automatically identify vulnerabilities in your web applications and web services. NetSparker scanners employ a unique and dead-accurate vulnerability scanning engine that automatically verifies vulnerabilities with a proof of concept. For more information, visit them on the web at netsparker.com or email them at contact@netsparker.com. The SANS Institute, the most trusted source for computer security training, certification, and research. Visit SANS.org to explore the full curriculum and latest training offerings. Tenable Network Security, creators of Nessus, the world's best vulnerability scanner. Jumpstart your security program today and evaluate Security Center CV, the continuous monitoring solution. For more information, visit them on the web at tenable.com. Welcome back, everyone, to Security Weekly. This is the security news for this week, where everyone seems to be praising Apple. Oh, Apple's so great. They protect our privacy. They're so great. They're telling the government to go shove it. La, 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 la.
If I were a cynical old bastard, I would say this whole thing is so fucking staged from Apple and the FBI that this has been building for years, and everybody's drawn this line in the sand, and this has nothing to do with the San Bernardino terrorists, as if we don't know who was involved, the dead people. But it's time to have the showdown. And let's do it in an election year when people are saying dumb shit and nothing will ever happen, and we're going to waste tons of fucking cycles and not be more secure on any level whatsoever.
It's complete theater. It's complete theater. I completely agree with you, Jack.
Do they want access to the phone to get deeper into the terrorist network? Do you think that's their goal? Or do I watch too many movies and TV? Or see all of the above?
So I'll come back with a statement I made a few shows ago, and that is encryption can be certainly data at rest, and it can be end-to-end. But there is always some point in an application where things are unencrypted or plain text. Try harder. That's all I'm going to say.
So there are a couple of interesting things. For those that haven't kept up with this, good for you. Just pay no attention. Fuck this story. But for the rest of you, sorry. Look, there's like the beautiful sunsets and kittens and bunnies on the internet.
Rainbows and
rainbows. There's
unicorns.
Booze and dead hookers on the internet. Whatever it is, just pay no attention. But otherwise... Dan Guido at Trail of Bits has done a great blog post. Kim Zetter's done some interesting stuff. Troy Hunt has done a good analysis. Rob Graham has done a good analysis. What I've learned so far this week is that everybody is fucking wrong except whoever you're listening to at the time. But the deeper story is they have the dead bodies, therefore they have the fingerprints. They could use the fingerprint thing to unlock it.
But it's a 5C, so it doesn't have a fingerprint scanner.
That's right. It's a C, right?
And Apple locks it out after 48 hours or on restart.
Oh, that's true, right? Restart. So here's the bottom line. They don't know if there's a pin on it. Therefore, they have to be... I mean, there's some sort of pin, but they don't know how it's set because there's no way in the UI to know whether it's encrypted or what it is. Apple could absolutely do something to help on a 5C, but, it's about precedent. It's about grandstanding, and back to the original question, I certainly hope the reason for getting into this phone is to make connections in the network to see who they were talking to, right? That would be the right reason to do this.
Except the thought I just had on that is that everything is still public, so hopefully if you're in that network, you're like, oh, all this stuff is public, let's go erase any connections we had. But would there really be data stored on that phone?
But there's been
maybe a key. There might be a key, but I'm not saying hopefully, but
I don't know what there. I mean, so is there more there than the telco can provide through connection records and things like that?
Right.
Who knows? I think that the actual specifics of the case are lost in the politics of this story. And it's time to have a giant showdown, and the showdown has to happen, and I think that whichever side you're on, burying it in an election year I'm not sure about the wisdom of burying the politics in an election year.
You used wisdom and politics in the same sentence.
And,
Just pointing it out.
I mean, at a time
Just saying.
at a time when we've got, Jeb Bush attacking Donald Trump and Trump making fun of the Pope.
Trump hijacking his website. Did you see that?
Yes, Trump hijacking his website.
Hijack it, but the domain expired. And
domain expired, and Trump. Well, somebody who works for Trump did it because Trump.
Yeah, no. Well,
I know we stay away from
politics.
From politics on this show, but let me just say that if you really feel compelled to vote for somebody with something bizarre in his head, I personally will cast my vote for Vermin Supreme, not Donald Trump. But there are like three
I thought you were
out of
gonna
our.
say John McAfee there for a minute.
No, because John doesn't have anything bizarre on his head. There are like three people listening to this who are nodding, who even know who the hell Vermin Supreme is.
Yeah, I'm not one of them.
You got to check it out. Vermin Supreme wears a muck boot on his head. He's
I thought you were going for that,
year,
or the Pastafarians now putting the strainers on their head for their pictures.
Also, Massachusetts has finally recognized the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster because somebody got a driver's license with the headgear. But anyway,
So,
not
Kevin is
Kevin.
here.
Let's let Kevin say something.
Kevin. I am genuinely interested in your take on this story.
So this is going to be, everyone's calling it the case of the century or whatever, but I find it absolutely fascinating what could potentially happen here. So it's important to understand, although to Jack's point, no one knows what the hell they're talking about, and the most authoritative source is the loudest one. But from what I can gather from this, what the bottom issues here is that the 5C, the phone in particular, has a passcode associated with it. And what the FBI is compelling Apple to do is not attempt to break the encryption, but to utilize an external software update to remove the timeout and max try feature for the PIN so they can brute force the password of the phone.
They also want them to give them the ability to do it digitally so that they can try multiple combinations.
Yeah, so it's through an external device. So it's a password brute forcer, like a forensics tool. So
let me add one more shade to it, because what's interesting too is not just that it's a 5C, it's owned by the dead terrorist's employer. And the
It was a
employer
government
already
agency.
And the employer said, hey, go ahead. You can have the phone. Do whatever you want with it. I give you all consent. So he's dead. So his Fourth Amendment rights are gone.
Fifth.
No, fourth. It's a warrant.
So legal search and seizure. Yeah.
But does if you were alive, would the Fifth Amendment protect?
Fourth and Fifth both come into play. So it's interesting, and I don't want to take all I wanted to add was that
Kevin.
mention from Kevin's perspective. We can come back to the Fourth and the Fifth because they're both interesting. But all I wanted to point out was that it wasn't his device. It was an employer-owned device. The employer's given consent, and then as Kevin set up, they went to court and said, well, look, we can't really do anything with it. So hey, Apple probably has a way. We want them to update just this phone in a way that doesn't screw anything up, that lets us get access to it.
And so Apple came back saying they don't have a way, which is setting up for this very kind of legal interesting battle where it now comes down to, at least the press release they put out, or Tim Cook put out, is saying that if they are compelled to do this, it'll be the first time a software company is forced to cripple their products, which could have a chilling effect for other industries, but also legal precedent for the government to start requesting new software or backdoors be compelled to be built into products that are inherently encrypted. So this legal battle is going to be fairly interesting to see going forward, and the response from other major companies has been very tepid. I mean, I think only the CEO of Google came out with some very generic statement saying, yeah, this is kind of interesting.
But we still like our government contracts. So
that's the thing. A lot of these organizations that are pushing encryption on a massive scale, like even Microsoft is starting to with BitLocker, they can't publicly come out and say, well B2B don't do this because they're going
this
to lose their
is-
contract.
I spent time thinking about this just a little bit too, because what I've noticed is interesting, and I don't want to go down that political hole, but they've been asking candidates about this. I live in South Carolina. I can't get away from it right now. So I paid attention to the way that they talk about it. And I think it's kind of nuanced. So the reason that I was kind of adding some of those pieces back into it is it's a phone. It's part of an ongoing court case. They have permission, and they've gone through all the proper channels in order to access the phone. There's a technical control on top of it, and so they're allowed to get the writ and to go try to compel the company to do it. So the company has two basic options. They can either comply with it, or they can explain why they are technically unable to comply with it. So Tim Cook signaled, hey, you know what? We can't do it. But they legally have about 4 days left to demonstrate to the court it's technically infeasible. Now that's different. Kind of.
It's technically, but you mentioned the word writ, and it needs to be mentioned somewhere that the FBI is relying on 18th century writs to make this demand.
Sure.
Well, and you got to back. You got to back up. Why?
I mean, so it's like debating drones and bringing in the treaties of Westphalia. And I also disagree that this will be interesting to watch. The summaries will be interesting, but the minutia of this will not be interesting at all.
Oh
God!
I think there's no argument there. It's just that what's happening now is there's a lot of confusion swirling around this. Is it the encryption per se? No. Is it a backdoor per se? Well, no. They're not asking Apple to build a backdoor into future products, but they're basically. But what Apple's saying is,
that's an important point. That's an important point
here. If we demonstrate that we can do this, well then, I guess we kind of do have this vulnerability built into it.
Exactly.
And so if they have the capability, then well, what else are you guys able to do that you didn't tell us about? If they don't have the capability, then the pressure's on, well, you guys got to be able to do it, which is entirely separate from, oh, and by the way, I want an encryption, decryption capability that the government can access, right? They're three separate issues.
I think they're more than, because first of all, we have to remember the changes once we get the hardware enclave, which whether or not it's properly configured to prevent this later, which maybe it's not. And then for what they're looking for, do the apps on the phone do their own crypto well enough that it will obfuscate this? So if you're using Text Secure, now part of the Signal bundle, do you have that? And even if they do that, can we go overseas? And this is, this is great entertainment. And for the most part, people come down on, of course, you should tell the FBI what the bad people did.
But so and I should know this because we've interviewed people who are phone and mobile specialists.
Wait.
Do they really
time out. Then there's something else needs to be said. We keep referring to this as a phone.
Yeah.
That's
you're
ignorant.
Right.
It's a computer.
Right.
Right. You know what? If you've used any modern smartphones as a telecommunications device, they're all fucking horrible at it.
Right.
Right? They're terrible. They're
and
terrible as a telephone. Now, there's a computer that fits in your pocket. If you have big pocket, if you're like me and have to have the giant phones because your eyes aren't that good. But still, it's a computer. I think that calling it a phone changes things too, because we like to apply telecommunications stuff to a computer.
But there's no way.
Kim Zetter is employed for another decade based on this, right?
Okay, but hold on a second. The math is pure. We know it is. If they're using strong encryption and it's implemented correctly, then Apple's statement is correct. We cannot do it. Hold
on.
But that's been disputed.
You're talking about bypassing the code that triggers the encryption or the wipe, which is separate from the encrypt. They're not necessarily asking to bypass the encryption as much as they're asking to bypass the lock mechanism
the delays
that triggers the wipe.
On fail either encrypts or wipes or whatever.
Oh, well, then it's not an encryption issue. I guess I missed the point on that.
Yeah, it's an important distinction to make that they're not trying to go after the crypto.
They're not trying to break the crypto, but they're trying to. Right. So there's.
Well, now actually, I'm more confused because why grandstand? I mean, it's completely an emotive issue, right? But why grandstand on this one now. I mean, maybe I'm being naive, but
if it sets a precedent, then Apple will end up having to do hundreds and then thousands of one-offs is what they haven't come out and said. And, you know, to kind of roll back, my understanding is there are a couple of key things. So with your iPhone, you put a handful of wrong entries in, it starts increasing a software delay and how long it takes. And, you know, once you get up to 10, that last one, you have to wait an hour or whatever it is, depending on how it's configured, which they don't know. So the first thing is they don't want it to throttle it back so that it slows down input. There's still a hardware delay because Apple uses good crypto. Therefore, it takes processor cycles to get there. So they can only run at a certain speed, but there's nothing they can do about hardware. The second one, I think Michael pointed out, currently you have to use the interface on the phone. You can't plug a device in, an external device in, and use that for input. So bypassing that, so you could like hook it up to a laptop and throw something else at
But
it.
in previous versions, I thought you
And
could.
then-
we had mobile experts on
It depends
the show
on
before. It
depends on the version
right?
and which hardware platform and what version of the OS. And then the last piece was to disable, if it's enabled, not have it do the auto wipe.
Right.
And so now what the FBI is able to do is to connect a brute forcing tool to it externally and run the brute force to it, which back to, as Joff, you were kind of headed in this direction, I think. Now we're down to, you've got a 16-character passphrase on your phone. I don't even know if iPhones support one that long, but you know, you've got an 8 or 10-character passphrase on your phone that's not a dictionary word. They can run that tool for a really long time before it cracks because the math is still math. But I think it was just, I don't know why now, but this, or, you know, when Apple's complied in the past with other requests, a couple of things are interesting. Dan Guido has written a lot at Trail of Bits. There's a blog post that they've done and updated, which has a lot of details, as I mentioned. And I don't know, it is a staged show.
Yep.
Yeah, well, because Apple's not doing this because they love their customers. Apple's doing this because they care about their
Well,
bottom
they
line.
love their customers because customers give them money.
Right.
And
I think they're afraid if they
roll
comply, people throw their iPhones out and go get Android devices.
They're afraid of the implications overseas. How do you, you know, if you say yes to the U.S., do you say yes to Russia? Do you say yes to China? Do you say yes to Saudi Arabia? You know, this creates a trust issue for them. I think that, you know, the answer is to use Android and just admit you have no security whatsoever. You'll know we don't have these conversations about Android because there's something that's going to pop that sucker open.
Right.
yeah.
So, but what we believe on this panel today is that Apple's crypto is sound in the later versions of the OS. That in previous versions, this wouldn't have been an issue because the FBI would have just bypassed the security. But it's progressed to the point where they have to go to
like
Apple.
It's their authentication and protection mechanism.
Well, a question's been raised, and I think Dan Guido brought this up, which is in the newer versions of iPhones, which have the hardware enclave, you can do firmware updates without losing data that you've stored, which means that they don't completely rekey. This is my interpretation of somebody way smarter than me based on his interpretation of what he says seen not being able to get the code. So with all those disclaimers, but if you touch a hardware encryption module and it doesn't make you re-enter all data, then it hasn't completely rekeyed. So it may actually be possible with, you know, with my 6 Plus or whatever the heck that thing over there is, that they could still do this. Now, is iOS 10 going to blow this right out of the water so it can't be done anymore? Most likely, because one of the critical points is that this court ruling doesn't require them to do this going forward, right? So this is all, I don't know, to bring it into public view at a time which may be dangerous because we have a lame duck president who can do executive orders and do things that may or may not it's just it's too much of a gamble for me. I don't
Right.
I'm not
You
I
mean
don't
like
pretend to be a politician, but
lobby to double the taxes on cigars?
yeah, well, you know,
Great. Thanks for
Well,
that.
well, wait. So I mean, what's happening is, I mean, it is overtly a political action. I mean, you can't call it anything else. It's grandstanding at a time when there's a chance of getting some success and some leverage. And I think it's our job to talk to our friends and neighbors to say that you know to offer this discussion up. Frankly, to say that on its technical merits, this is Pandora's box, and if we open it, we're going to go down a rabbit hole which we will not be able to recover from.
Well, so there's something that's interesting because I've kind of quietly watched this. When the story first broke and you looked at people's reaction, it was right because I'm at least I routinely mock. If you want to do anything emotive, you say it's for the children so the terrorists don't win. So you turn around and you go, "Oh, this is because of the terrorists." And so what's people's natural reaction? Of course, they better unlock that stuff. Apple better do it. What I've noticed is a shift today. Today, you start looking at the headlines in the popular press, not the technical press, but you look in the popular press and it's saying, well, this is, as we've been talking about, this feels like it's a little bit staged. This feels like it's a government showdown. This feels like it's something bigger. Hold on, everybody. Let's think about what's going on. And all of a sudden, you're seeing conversations about the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment. And the point that I want to make that's fascinated me because I didn't know this till I wrote about it in the fall. There was a criminal case in the fall. Fifth Amendment says, among other things, that you are not compelled to testify against yourself. So what's interesting about that is that if you have a phone and it has a passcode, the court cannot compel you to give them the passcode to your phone. If you have a safe in your office, and this is the analog they look at, if you have a safe in your office and it has a combination, they cannot compel you to give them the combination. Now, they may have other methods by which they can crack the safe, but they cannot compel you to give them the combination. If, however, you have a key to the safe, they can compel you to give them the key. If you have a cell phone or a smartphone, and I think Jack's pointed out right, stop worrying about it being a phone. You have a device that can contain information much akin to a safe, and your protection mechanism for that is a fingerprint. They can absolutely compel you to give up your fingerprint on that. Now, keep that in mind then as we keep watching all these people say, oh, we got to get past the password. Passwords are horrible. They're really bad. We should all use biometrics. So if you have a password, not only there's a lot of reasons why passwords are good, but there's a legal element to it. But what's interesting is I just saw a couple of, now they're still more technically minded, but they're Apple product sites, Android. People are talking about that now. I think that's a positive sign to it. I think it's a conversation that societally would be interesting to have, and it's kind of fascinating to watch people go back to some of these constructs and talk about them. The question is, how intelligent is the conversation? And our job as security people is, are we conflating different things together, or are we helping people understand the difference between backdoors and bypasses? And by the way, maybe that's a semantic difference, but what's happening in this case versus other case versus the slippery slope and whatever else. And so I think there's things for us to take a look at there. And I enjoy the conversation.
I think it's interesting.
It'll be interesting, like I said, to watch the summaries. Anybody watching the minutia of this, bless you, but it's going to be brutal. And every approach to securing things has its own downfall, right? So your flight can be rerouted to somewhere, and after 3 days in a Turkish prison, you can voluntarily surrender your passphrase. I mean, that's I go back to that one all the time, but that's part of what's his name, Gonzalez, in the TJX hack. Part of the information used against him was a Russian who wouldn't give up his crypto keys for a laptop when he was diverted into Turkey, and on the third day, he voluntarily gave up the passphrase to get into his laptop because he spent 3 days in a Turkish prison. And I tell this often enough, I want to make sure I never get diverted to Turkey, because next thing you know, I'll be saying, I can't even go there. Yeah, I will. What the hell? It's late enough. Armenian genocide? Let's do that right here with Paul right here. The Armenian genocide? Remember that, Obama? You promised you'd recognize that, but we needed outsourced torture, bastard. So this goes down rat holes, and it's fun to watch from the safe distance, but the question is, how safe are any of us, how safe a distance are any of us, especially if we make our living doing security stuff?
Well, we're not. I mean, yeah, I mean, to state the obvious, I know your question was kind of rhetorical, but the other thing that the regular person on the street needs to understand is this emotive argument is a springboard to backdooring encryption.
Completely agree.
In my opinion, and encryption is what secures the vast majority of legal commercial transactions today, and it would be an awful, terrible, horrendous thing to make that suddenly not secure. And
Which is fascinating then.
That's what people need to know.
I mean, think about how much Google's put behind deprecating SHA-1 certificates ahead of time and accelerating all of their stuff around the use of SSL and pushing everybody to SSL, which is all encryption based, and it's all about protecting commerce and protecting the transfer of information, to then kind of just, we'll take a backseat on this one. It's all kind of fascinating. So I suspect amidst the politics, there's more behind the scenes on this. This to come out over this, because as Jack, you pointed out, it's a writ. It's not a compulsion by the government to do something bigger than that. It's a writ in a particular case on a particular phone. No, there's a bigger play here, and Apple's getting out in front of it.
Well, it's an interesting tactic to take, because what happens if they lose?
Yeah.
Oh, Kevin, you're such a killjoy.
Well, no, when you think about it, we're talking about
All right, that next round of drinks.
This is something they could have, theoretically complied with in a one-off case. They're not asking for a larger backdoor, if you will. They're not even talking about the encryption. Yet now, if they lose, this opens up a much larger conversation, if you will, of what the government can compel them to do in a legal manner.
Right. But if they lose this case, remember, this doesn't have any forward language in it. If they lose this case, the FBI will not be able to compel them to crack open an iOS 10 device, because that will have volatile key material. It will have things that are, it will overwrite. It will be a grenade. It will be a data grenade. And then they're going to have to force a law that forces backdoors. And then, since all the things are built in China, they'll just use Chinese software instead of the U.S. software. And then, this is staged politically to have this conversation, because if they lose, they get to, I don't want to, that's not really martyrdom, but if they lose, it gives them a rationale for doubling down on crypto and, self-destructive crypto. And of course, the backlash to that won't be in terrorism cases. The backlash to that will be on the poor people at the Genius Bar at the Apple Store when they're trying to explain why you can't get into your mom's phone or your phone.
Yeah, which might be a pretty interesting national conversation to have. But to your point, Kevin, because I've thought about why would they do that in this case, and I think it's simple, because if they can demonstrate that they can do it, then even though there's no forward language in it, if you show me that you can do it, then I'm going to make you do it all the time. And I think that they've done the calculus on that and said, no, we're not going that direction. Number one. But number two, if they do have that capability, that's damaging to them. But let's flip it around. If they don't have that capability and they can demonstrate that technically, and I think, Jack, you've laid it out. This is great for them. If they've been trying to get people to pay attention to privacy and they're trying to separate themselves out, this is actually brilliant on a marketing perspective to turn around and say, hey, man, we did a showdown with the government. Win or lose, whatever they do next, they can say, we care about you. Look at what we've done. We've had the best testers in the world come at us, and don't worry, you're good with us. I mean, I don't really see a lot of downside.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're not suggesting there's marketing value in Apple grandstanding over their customers' privacy, are you?
What? No.
Well, no, but the thing.
I'm not that cynical, am I?
I am.
Damn it, Jack. I'm hanging out with you too much, man.
No, the thing not to be missed, though, is there's marketing value on both sides, and that's why it's happening.
Absolutely.
Course.
Absolutely, right? Yeah.
Let's talk about something
else.
More uplifting, like a critical bug in glib C. Again.
Oh God.
Again.
Here we go down the rabbit hole.
All right,
Joff,
let
you
me
know, it
just
kinda
let me
ties-
just say
Go ahead,
this:
Jeff.
yum-y update, because that's
Yes.
So my understanding of the bug was exploited in the context of DNS,
Correct.
and that you could overflow I think it was a heap, or no, it was a stack actually.
It was a stack. So it has to bypass ASLR if that's enabled on your Linux system.
Right, with a DNS response, which would require a DNS response greater than 2048 bytes.
You're correct.
Which in turn would require that, in most cases, IP fragmentation. Did you notice earlier that I
was going to say, it ties
allow
back to your
fragments
segment. Yes.
into my network? So it's a extended DNS problem largely because
But
DNS.
I thought, Joff, that UDP DNS responses greater than 512 bytes automatically flip to TCP?
That's right. What'll happen is the DNS resolver will respond with the truncated bit, and it
Yes.
will flip to TCP, and then the TCP request will come in, and the TCP request may well be 3,000-4,000 bytes. It can be anything you like.
But the use cases for that used to be pretty slim. I don't know about today, but there were use cases.
Well,
DNS.
I want to
Go ahead.
I want to go to Carlos for this.
One quick comment before we go to Carlos.
Yeah.
And it's just this DNSSEC.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
Has changed the use case.
Yeah, DNSSEC and IPv6.
Yeah.
So Carlos, I mean, can we block if we're not using DNSSEC? Can we block this DNS traffic?
You should be able, by size, depending on your firewall and the rule that you can actually create.
Right. I know Carlos has written a lot of DNS tools, so.
Yeah, and one thing to also consider is this is on the client side. So this is get host address info.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of a regular call that somebody would simply call on a script. So how do you exploit this? You would need to somehow be able to tell your target, hey, resolve this name for me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would need to have control of his DNS server. And you have to remember, we don't go directly to a DNS server. DNS typically chains that connection. So, yeah, good for a cafe type of attack, hard on an internet type of attack.
Carlos, have you seen, because I've seen both that this attack can come through recursive DNS, so it can come down through other servers. And then I've also heard, I think Dan Kaminsky said it could not pass them. So I've seen both that it could come from an open internet query and it could not. And it's over my head on that level.
Well, I think
I think could not.
Yeah, I mean, if you have
the Red Hat folks said it could.
If you register a brand new domain,
but they also know more about it than they're letting on.
But if you had a brand new domain that no one ever knew about and you just registered it, I mean, yeah, that response would go out there and start getting cached. If you've got other domains that maybe the responses are already cached, it's probably not going to be as effective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it will have to be a brand new connection. Also, it depends what type of target are you. I would have to know that you're running a piece of software that first of all, that you're one of that very low percentage that is running Linux, and also that I'm targeting specifically the application that you're going to be using to connect to a specific domain for a specific query. So I need those two pieces of information. One, if you're using Linux, yes, no, what application are you using, and are you vulnerable or not? Then I have to get you to query to that domain. That is easy. That's a phishing attack. That's social engineering. But then I need to have some control of your DNS infrastructure to make you go there.
Right.
So if I want you to go there, that means that either I have to catch you in a cafe, I have to invite you somewhere where I have connection to it, and I'm able to respond faster than the DNS server in that environment.
If I'm connecting to an SSH server and it's doing a reverse lookup on me, does that count? And I set up a new domain with the evil response? Does that work? Does that count?
think not. You got me there. I'm blanking
Because,
out.
well,
right
if
now.
if the SSH server is going to perform a lookup on my host name,
No, if it's doing a reverse lookup, that's going to perform a reverse lookup on your IP
on my
address.
IP address, it's not going to do. I'm not sending it a host name. I'm sending it my IP
correct.
address. I got you.
Yeah,
I got you. So I
so
can't trigger it. Yeah.
The
So this is a
authoritative.
tricky one. I don't think this is as critical as some would lead you to believe. Then.
No, what, in my opinion, Paul, what this does though is crack the door for other research
Mm-hmm.
in glibc for other potential problems. It's a little bit like the Heartbleed issue, right? It like opens the door for further research that more problems are going to come out from this that are significantly more severe. It's just the first step, and that's really where we ought to be concerned, in my opinion.
And I think the main reason that all of us are discussing this is because Google made a blog post on it, and it came out from Google. That's, and my understanding, one of the main reasons is who actually found it and published it. And second of all, it is that paranoia that we, all of us in the security industry, have about a common library having a vulnerability, and all of a sudden we go like, oh shit.
Exactly.
Like what happens with OpenSSL. Oh shit, a lot of people are using OpenSSL. Now Bash, crap, a lot of people use Bash. Now we have something which is even further down the stack, and it's glibc, and we're going like, another one of a common one. But if you look at how do I attack it, it's quite hard. It's quite difficult. Not impossible, but quite hard.
Did you folks happen to read the article, is the cybersecurity bubble about to burst? I don't know I don't know how well you follow like the industry kind of news, and I'm curious to hear from my listeners. If you want to hear more about the industry news, I've got some ideas. Send your feedback to psw@securityweekly.com. If you really want to hear about the industry news, like who's getting bought, who's going public, whose stocks are up, whose stocks are down, what news are coming from each company. I mean, I do get some requests that people say, well, I want to choose a vendor, but one of the things I want to factor in is like their viability, right? Like I got this really small vendor and maybe they're doing really cool stuff and I can use their technology, but are they going to get swallowed up or go out of business? And there's some tools out there to follow that.
So, do you care that Ingram Micro was acquired for $6 billion by a Chinese company?
I don't know. That's the
right.
question I'm posing, right? Those of us in the industry, we pay attention to that stuff.
Right. For anybody that like sells anything through Ingram, we certainly care. For anybody that watches the industry, we care. But yeah, it'd be interesting too, because we certainly have folks that we could engage in a conversation about bubble. And my really short thing is, I don't think it's a web bubble like the last one, but I think that there's a lot of pointless inflation, and it's hiding the organizations that have value. And I think that it's really hard to pick out the true value from the hype.
Bingo. And so now be an investor and do the same thing. Who do you go to and trust? Be an investor, be a startup, be anybody else. And so what happens then is, we're somebody tells a story, sounds good, they'll throw a lot of cash at it because they're looking at big multiples and fast growth and whatever else. So bubble, fine, whatever. Correction, fine, whatever. Those are big, exciting words. But I think in terms of the space, no, I think there's a lot of room for growth. I think there's a lot of companies that are going to get into it. I think there's a lot of people going to start looking at these challenges differently now with a solution mindset, and I think that's fantastic. The challenge, I think, bigger is if you're a VC, how do you price it? What are you looking for?
And you know the difference in VCs too, right? So there's
absolutely
there's all right, I'm not going to name any names, but there's like this VC threw money at this company, and you're like, well, okay. And then there's this VC backed this company. You're like, oh, that's probably some pretty sweet technology because those people,
the VC backing,
they know their stuff.
They know their stuff.
Right.
And so some of those VC houses, some of those VC houses, if you look at their track record, they're like, I've heard of every one of these companies, and half of them get money from me at least once a year. Right? You're like, oh, them. All right, so maybe that company's headed somewhere, right? And so it gets deep. And if nobody cares except us, we probably should do it before or after the podcast.
Right. Yeah.
But if you care,
But if you care,
we
want to
have
hear
plenty
from
of
you,
folks
'cause
that we could
we'll do some
engage in the conversation.
Yeah.
Including some VCs.
I was going to make one comment, and that is, I think that that opinion may be being picked up by the fact, well, it's not necessarily a fact, my opinion anyway, that the security industry currently is in a period of transition and growth into maturing its technologies overall in terms of defense detection in particular. And I think that the investment side of the house is probably picking up on the fact that we're in transition and we're in this sort of maturity cycle into infancy up to being, say, teenagers. And I think there might be a little bit of nervousness in the investment sector based around that dynamic and that churn and that change.
It's not so much the investment. I mean, VC capital has been up in security for a while, and you're still seeing a lot of VC. But the article, Erica Tchaikovsky, which I thought she did a nice job putting this together, in year to date, she talks about the companies who are pretty well established and big players in the industry. Their stocks have gone down anywhere from 20 to 46%.
So,
but I think that just supports what
actually,
I just said.
one of those I'm looking at from here, she had to slice that nice to make it only look as bad as it is.
It's true. It's not a
there's one company.
Yeah.
There's one company that just started pulling zeros off the stock value.
Yes. Yeah. There are some companies.
But so is that the optimism? And I won't again.
Did I not state my argument well enough? Does that mean nobody's going for it?
I think you're onto something, but there's got to be a shakeout. There's a difference between hearing about companies getting Series A, B, and C rounds and Series K and L rounds.
Right.
Right.
You're in trouble if you haven't either sold or gone public after your certain series. Right.
It depends on what you're doing, but I think there's been some optimism in the market, which is a different animal altogether. Right. There's been some naive optimism about security stocks in the stock market once people IPO, and I think there's some corrections happening now. That doesn't mean. Maybe for some of these organizations that have taken a hit, I don't think it means that they've. Their value is collapsed. Their value is corrected in some cases. I think some of them, the value is collapsed too.
As you get to a large enough public company, it's hard to be as innovative and nimble when you get to that stage.
I believe
in security,
that's
so
true.
important.
I believe that's certainly true. And in stocks, it is based on growth more than anything else, right? It's look at
based on return on shareholder value.
Which they really focus on growth.
No argument.
So if you look at
any analysis, growth is important.
So if we go completely out of our realm and look at Krispy Kreme donuts, right? If you remember the meteoric rise and near just stunning collapse when they couldn't expand their market anymore, right? Because they didn't keep growing, right? Because they continued to be, the Krispy Kremes in Tallahassee, Florida, continue to, have people out the door when the red light turns on. But that's not what Wall Street cares about.
They're only good when they're warm.
Oh man.
Like cold Krispy Kreme.
But when they're warm, and then you've got to go take a shower because you get that in your beard, and it looks like you've been doing other things. It's just
licking your fingers and your beard.
Here's the analog, because we talk about this all the time too. Look at insurance. Look at the insurance market. Look at the way that people have written those policies. Look at the premiums that they've charged for it, and that there's no bigger market that's out of alignment right now than insurance. I'm pretty confident they know how to bring that into compliance here pretty quick, and so they will. I think it's the same thing with the stock market. It's all based on information, and if we can't define security or what we're trying to get accomplished or everything else, it's all about information and understanding, and whether it's growth or acquisition or number of customers or traction or whatever else. We struggle within the industry to figure this out, so people outside of the industry are also struggling with it.
Okay,
Bubble
don't you
is
think
the bursting?
Just one more question? Don't you guys, just anybody, don't you think there's a separation too between companies that are selling products, whether they be appliance, software products, versus consultancies? I mean, because there's a
absolutely.
big difference there.
Oh yeah.
Did you see the article a few weeks ago about unicorns and cockroaches? And so yeah, we should find out if people want to know. But Michael, to one of your points about information, one of the challenges of the stock market is that is the use and hoarding and misuse and whatever of information in stock pricing. That's a whole other world.
Right. And so now add the complexity of security into that and the way that we communicate and how do you categorize it, how do you explain it? And it's just
go ahead and categorize or explain that without using the phrases house of cards or pyramid scheme. There's my optimism showing again.
We missed your optimism, Jack.
We're so glad to see you. Though.
So Instagram adds two-factor authentication that was short on the heels of a bug that could allow others to read your direct messages. I think the two are mutually exclusive, but it kind of felt to me like, we had a big security hole. Hey, let's roll out that two-factor authentication that we've had in the back burner for a while.
Can you say a radical overreaction?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Instagram is big, though.
Instagram is big. Instagram's big, and
if you're a hot chick and you like to put pictures of yourself on the internet, Instagram is your social network, baby.
Boy, I was just about to make a comment about my daughter, but I will hold back now.
Dude, you need to go in your firewall and start blocking Instagram.
The challenge of two-factor is the non-repudiation aspect, and that means that. No, honey, that's not my dick pic. It's kind of harder to say when it has your dongle. Wait, no. That's
Well, I don't think you can post full-on naked to Instagram, but they have a much more relaxed policy than, say, Facebook.
Yeah, I know.
So.
I'm just.
Time for me to elevate my filtering.
Elevate the filtering.
So there goes some web filtering. So, Joff, next week we'll be talking about how to configure full traffic proxy for decryption and analysis of all traffic.
Yes, and application blocking in my Squid proxy.
Application blacklisting, yes.
Of course, your daughter's probably smart enough to just use her 4G connection to do Instagram.
In her case, yes.
Yeah.
I'm toast.
Yeah.
Well, that was all I had. Did you guys have anything else, or? I mean, I had some other stuff in there, but we could talk all night.
I got to
go ahead, Kevin.
Kevin, go ahead.
So, if you own any products by SimpliSafe,
yes,
I would recommend removing them immediately. For those who did not see this advisory today, IOActive put out a full disclosure of their research into SimpliSafe's home security products, which are kind of like a base station IoT approach to security, burglar alarms, door alarms, smoke alarms, all that fun stuff.
I saw a commercial or a YouTube ad for them recently.
They claim to have millions of customers. Mm-hmm. So these products were entirely out there. And what they found was that through very simple sniffing, and they could just replay the password right back to the alarm, disable it, and turn everything off or change everything.
Yep.
So the beauty of microcontrollers with these they're one-time programmable, so there's no way to fix this.
Yeah, right. That's right.
That's interesting. This is this is part of the IoT security nightmare. Now, I think on the positive side that a lot of these IoT devices that are providing security, while they present some security issues, can also lead to increased security in some areas, right? Yeah, someone could hack my camera, but I'm inherently more secure because I have a camera, right? And I think that the burglars maybe aren't as sophisticated as we think, and having that stuff sometimes is better, even though it has vulnerabilities, which hopefully we can fix. I mean, this is a case where fixing it, if you can't apply a patch to it, that's bad, right?
Why do I feel like Paul is trying to convince himself of this idea?
Yeah. There's a time lapse.
I can lock all the doors in my house from my phone. Now you could hack that and
I
open
can
up
do
all
that
my
too.
doors.
I'll call my wife and tell her to lock all the doors.
You could also, you can also throw a rock through my window and come through the window too, right? Or open my window because that doesn't have a fancy little device.
I think the attacks though are going to always be a little bit behind. But if you look at how long it took before, and it seems to still be more common, at least anecdotally in Europe, particularly in Britain. using software-defined radio to get into cars, right? Which is now fairly common for high-end cars. So there will be a time, and there's going to be a different skill set, and
they're going to catch up.
It'll catch up, and if they're not going to waste. Nobody's going after my 01 250 Rust bucket with any advanced attacks. But if you've got a new Range Rover or whatever you've got, it's worth spinning that up for. So if you're driving through my neighborhood, nobody's going to bother with anything more than a rock through the window.
Right.
You're driving through some other folks' neighborhoods.
I think also my point too.
Sniffing.
If you implement this technology, that you can't just rely on this technology, and I think that's true of whatever you use to protect your home or protect your network. Which is one of the problems, right? Yeah, you can't just say, well, I've got Simply Safe, so therefore I don't have to worry about security. I've got a same thing as going. I got a firewall, so I don't have to worry about security anymore. It's like no. Now you've got two problems, right? You've got a firewall which you have to secure, and you've got the rest of your network that you have to secure.
Right. But back to Joff's, tech segment at the beginning of the thing. So we would not trust it, even if we had seen bugs and fixes, and we would put this on a dedicated network segment.
Right.
And would monitor it.
Yes.
Right, that makes us nowhere near 1% of the user base, right? Because we're going to put it on a not even VLAN, right? I'm putting it on separate copper, right?
Right.
So just so we're clear then, to go back to the last segment, if you're out there in startup land or you're looking at something, these are your opportunities. Create these types of things for us, because then we can promote them and we'll use them.
And do them, and they don't have to be perfect, but you have to be better than the competition, and you have to manage incremental costs.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is where I keep probing you guys for questions, and I've teased a couple times now. I'm working on this concept of minimum viable security, which is not a checklist, and it's not my highest priority, but it's something that I want to keep bringing up because it's about mindset. And this is why I come back to you guys and I say, okay, so what are the questions? If somebody's a startup today, what are the 3 or no more than 5 questions they needed to ask themselves to think about? Not checklist, but questions about things like, well, where did you get your firmware? How will you be able to update it? I ask now a lot of questions about heartbeats and whatever else. But I think there's 2 other pieces to this too, and Paul just pointed out one of them, which is this is a detection device. When we go back and we look at physical security, no organization relies on any one thing. It's part of it all. And and then there's the other part to it is what are you expecting it to do, and what did you pay for it, or what's your ongoing fee for it, and how does that compare to any of these commercials I see on TV all the time that have wires or not wires or other things? So are we happy with the way that it was implemented, technically speaking? No, not really. But I saw somebody had a pretty interesting report today, fairly balanced, and they said, okay, so we looked at the FBI, we looked at the crime stats. This is like less than 1%. Of people that were going to do that. And it's kind of like, we can argue the technology, but when there's a guy at your front door and he already swiped Jack's truck, so he's just going to plow that sucker through your door. Well, yeah, I guess he maybe could have disabled your security system.
Yeah, you blew my security model of having a physical latch on the inside of your door, right? As a backup, if you're going to drive a truck through it, probably. But that's going to make a lot of noise, right? And someone could pick the lock on my front door. Sure, I could put high security lock. But my point is that you have to, whether you're securing a network and systems or you're securing your home, I don't want to say defense in depth, right? But you have to understand where your weaknesses are and where all of your compensating controls are. And to your point, Jack, monitor the situation.
Right. Yeah. Michael, let me give you 2 just for your question, Michael. 1, how do you securely update your code?
Yep.
Which assumes you do. And then 2, what happens to your code when you no longer exist?
That's a new one. I haven't asked that.
There are a couple of different ways of looking at that. It's you go out of business, you're acquired by somebody else who doesn't understand it. You're compelled by the government to do things that you are uncomfortable doing. What happens when you no longer control your code?
Imagine if we had a story about that right now.
Yeah. So what happens when you no longer? How do you fix shit? And what happens when you no longer control your code?
Well, and I think an important point on that note is what happens when someone else controls your device or your code. What other measures have you put in to compartmentalize that risk?
Yeah, that's a good point.
On that note, I think we're going to close out the show.
That's an
about that?
excellent idea.
It's an excellent idea. I want to thank everyone.
Let's compartmentalize this.
We're going
Let's
to compartmentalize it. We're going to
yes.
end the show. Thanks, everyone, for listening. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks to our illustrious hosts who helped us talk about all kinds of stories. Thanks, Joff, for doing very ad hoc segment that we put together in 5 minutes for the show. It came out awesome. We got a great feedback already. So thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next week. Jack, take us out.
Over and how's it go? Over and out. That's right.
Out.
Out.
All right.